None other than the Republican chair of Potter County. His name is Dan Rogers, the founder of We the People Town Square app. You better get it. And I'm very pleased to introduce to a whole new audience and audiences in multiple cities and states, Mr. Dan Rogers. How you doing, sir?
Doing great, Brent.
I really enjoyed our first interview, Dan, and of course, when I reposted some of your quotes and talked about, hey, no more property taxes. We need to do away with that. A lot of people responded very strongly to that. Then when I reposted another one, we're talking about we need to do away with these election machines. It's what happens inside the machines. More than anything, we need to go back to paper ballots. People jumped on that and responded to that as well. And then when I posted again, there is hope, folks. You can do something, but you can also have on your phone a non-censored communication platform. We the People Town Square. You can find it in the Apple App Store. It's a free app. You better download that while you're watching right now. But Dan, a lot going on in just a little bit. There's going to be a debate with President Trump and Kamala Harris, and so we're looking forward to that. I'm surprised that the debate, quite frankly, is happening. But what are some things that people need to keep in mind as they're about to watch this debate?
Well, it's kind of the Super Bowl of politics, right? The presidential election. So I think we need to pay attention to what they say. Most of the voters in West Texas overwhelmingly support President Trump. I don't believe most Americans, if they listen to what the Democratic Committee's platform is, they should read it, and they should read the Republican Party platform. As a matter of fact, we'll have those on our We the People Town Square site, and then you make the choice. And I have all the confidence in the world that the people of America will choose the Republican Party platform. But they need to read it, and they need to make up their own minds. So I'm looking forward to the debate. I think it's good that they're going to cut off Trump's mic. I think that makes it smoother. There's going to be debate watch parties all across the state. We're going to have one at our headquarters office tonight. So if you're in Amarillo, you can go by our headquarters office at 4217 Southwest 21st and join the young Republicans there who are going to be at our headquarters. So get involved and watch the debate. But what's more important, I believe, is that you get involved in your local community. It's your county commissioners, it's your city councilmen, it's your school board members. You need to turn off your televisions, turn off your screens, and show up at those meetings in your local county. You'll spend less time than reading somebody else's opinion of what happened. So why don't you go yourself? Then you'll know, because you're smart enough. You do not need somebody else to tell you what's going on. And in this day of the lack of media at the local level,
Right.
I think it's a great opportunity. And I think it's actually perhaps a good thing, because go show up yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're more important than the media. You don't need somebody else to tell you how to think. You do it.
Dan, you're an answer prayer. We had a national news show with Brigitte Gabrielle and Act for America called it News You Can Act On, created that show for her. 31 million households, and we were baffled that 34 million evangelicals did not even vote in 2020. And that to this day, around 10 million evangelicals are not even registered to vote. You know what, folks? Dan Rogers gave me hope. That there is something you can do, that there are people who do care. And, there's a false narrative out there as well, Dan. I mean, I was very happy to hear what you had to say about Austin. The word on the street, so to speak, is Austin, man, they're blue. And you said, no, Brent, that's not the case at all. That's the narrative that most people feel the same way that we do.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe that they've been messing with our vote. Now, that's to say, though, before I get into that, it's so important that you show up.
Right.
If everybody that was registered to vote showed up and voted, they cannot cheat
Right.
because of how they're doing it. I believe. I believe they're adding votes. It's not done at the county level. It's not even done in the machines. It's done once that vote leaves your polling place. And a lot of people don't understand that when they vote, that it's transmitted over the state's private network to the SOS.
Wow.
And then from there, at the national level, it's going through CISA and our intelligence. Who knows where it's going? And I believe that's most likely where they're manipulating it, because how else did Biden get 81 million votes?
Right.
I don't think he got 81 million votes.
Nope.
And you had a lot of people that tried to point that out and they vanished, right? They yanked their law licenses and they threatened them because they don't want people to know what's really going on. And they've come after me and they will, but I don't care because I will beat them. I'm not afraid of the government. Nobody should be afraid of their government. In fact, the way our founders designed our government was to make sure that the citizens know that the government is supposed to be afraid of them, the people. It is about the individual voter. We have the power. You have the power. But if you don't exercise your vote, if you don't be informed, you're abdicating your responsibility to somebody you do not know and who you may not agree with. So we're working on several levels to try to get these, I call it the unverifiable, hackable, black box voting system stopped.
Right.
If we can get that done, then we'll have a different government because a lot of people will not be elected, I believe. So why are they fighting me so hard on going back to hand-marked, self-authenticated, tangible ballots that we can verify? I'm asked that a lot, and I say, well, that's a good question.
Well, I was live with Israel this morning, and they said, well, hey, we have paper ballots, when we vote. And I thought, my gosh, man.
What people don't understand, and this is a interesting statistic. Out of 229 countries in the world that have some sort of voting, 218 of them use paper ballots.
Wow.
Only the United States, Venezuela, and a few other dictatorships use electronic voting. What's that tell you?
It tells you that we're in trouble, and we've been in trouble. Every time I go overseas, nobody believed for a moment that Sleepy Joe from his basement got more votes than Obama or Trump. And here we are. And of course, how much more does the truth have to come out? The results of some of the evidence presentations in Georgia and Arizona. The list goes on and on. Even people coming forward saying, "Hey, we dumped thousands of Trump ballots. We threw them away." And again, it doesn't make you an election result denier. It just makes you truly awakened to the fact that we have a crooked administration that it itself halted Middle East peace. Biden administration put a halt to the Abraham Accords. My friend was sitting next to President Sisi of Egypt when Biden's people said, unless Hamas and Hezbollah are considered nations, which they are not, we will not move forward. I mean, we have people with the Obama group coming against Netanyahu. And of course, this administration, supporting the Muslim radicals in Bangladesh, causing their moderate leader to run to India. Folks, we need a change. And, it's been said before, Dan, that, the left only needs one reason to vote, and the Republicans only need one reason not to vote. And we've got to change that today.
Well, show up and vote during this election, even if you think it's rigged. And I'm recommending that everyone vote early.
Right.
Number one, it is convenient. And number two, we can verify that you voted.
Right.
If you vote on early, because they post that every day, where you voted and who voted.
Right.
On election night. Now, what we believe is what's likely happening is they're taking the results from the early voting because they can see in real time your vote.
Right.
And so they're taking that and they understand how much they need to add. And I believe they're adding votes. So they're taking the early voting results. And then when the election's over on election night, they also have that information. And then I believe they're adding the votes necessary to get the results they need in the races that they want to manipulate. And that's what it appears. You saw it on election night in 2020.
Of course.
And so, but if every single person voted, they couldn't have that spread in the rolls to add the votes. And the reason we believe that is because I've worked with other counties and we went door to door and we've asked in one county, I won't mention the county, but it's a big county in Texas, in central Texas. And we went to 1,001 doors. And I'm going to give you the rough numbers are that we were able to get a hold of 585 people.
Wow.
And out of that 585 people that the EAs, the printout from the EA's office said voted, 184 said we never voted.
Yep.
So that's a pretty big percentage, right? So the fact that we weren't able to get a hold of all of them, but roughly half of them, and so what is that? A third of them, and that's probably about right, about 30%.
I've heard.
They could be adding, and we have no way of knowing who those people are, right? So if you vote early, that will help minimize that. But I think people are going to vote overwhelmingly for Trump. I think they voted overwhelmingly for Trump in 2020.
That's what I believe too.
I was in Travis County right before the election. I thought, wow, there's Trump banners everywhere, Trump signs. I saw very little support for the Democrats in Travis County. And I thought, I could see it. He might win Travis. And I could see Travis County being 40-60 Democrat, but not 80-20.
Right.
Which is what the machine said.
Which was opposite of what was going on.
And the problem with the machines are, and they may be perfectly fine. It's not the people running the machines. It's not the hardware, but it's what happens after that vote leaves the machine. And we have no way to verify anything in the current system. And I just want a system that the voters can have confidence in, where we can verify the vote and where everybody that gets elected, if questioned, could prove they won. And right now they can't. And that's a bad system. So why do we use it?
It is. Dan Bongino encourages everyone to vote early as well, early and online. And,
we don't want to be voting online.
Well, you can't always trust the portals. I know Act for America can be a trusted one. But give us the exact prescription of what we should do. I have a feeling there's going to be some live action events that we, the people, Town Square, will be conducting with yourself and myself. Now, I'm on board with you, man. I haven't been this excited in a while. Huh?
With another problem with electronic voting is there are a lot of people out there, particularly older people, that are not comfortable with technology, and so they don't vote, because they're afraid they won't know how to use the machines, and they don't want to be embarrassed going to the polls and not knowing how to use them. So I'm thinking about maybe doing a mock vote so people understand the process as it is today and how the machines work, and get that out to the voters. The question's going to be, we're going to have to do community outreach to try to get these people who don't have technology into a community center or something where we could show them how to do that and show them how to vote. And the other thing I'd like to do is do a presentation on how I recommend that we vote, which I think people will find much more simple and much more verifiable and much more accurate.
Well, let's go ahead and walk through that, Dan. Let's tell them that. What are you seeing right now? What's the best prescription here? Because
the way we used to do it is, and I think I have the benefit of being an election judge when we had this system, because, and what was good about it, it was a community event. Both parties were needed. Both parties were there. The precinct chairs, election judges, election workers of both parties worked together, and everybody's watching and making sure everything's run smooth and that there were nobody voting that shouldn't be. And we knew who they were. After you work the election in a precinct, you know the people, and then you know who's not legit, right?
Right.
And we'd get a call, hey, so and so's gonna voted in Randall County, they're headed to Potter County. We overheard them say they were going to vote again somewhere else, but they couldn't because their name wasn't on the manual poll book, right? So they would try to vote, their name's not on there. They would try to vote provisional, but we knew that they were bogus. We let them vote to create conflict, but we held the ballots as provisional ballots. And those ballots we have to verify later. But, then they would end up getting prosecuted for election fraud because they voted somewhere else and tried to vote again. And so I hear all these media stories about no evidence of election fraud.
Yeah.
We always have election fraud in every county in the state, every election, because there are idiots out there that try to get by with it. Now, generally, here they were of the Democratic Party, but it's not to say that Republicans some of them aren't too bright either sometimes. So, there's just people that for some reason or another think that they can game the system, and we don't want that. We just want it right. So I advocate for that system. We had a manual poll book, and it's by precinct, so you might have 1,000 names on it at most, and everybody comes in, they produce their ID, we find their name on the poll book, they sign their name beside it. Once we verify that they're there and the signature is there, then they picked a ballot off the table. They would take it and sit down at another table. They would fill it out. They'd come back by. They'd drop it in the vote box, and they'd leave. And it was quick. It was simple. It didn't matter if we had electricity. It didn't matter if we had a water leak. It didn't matter if the power went out. In fact, one year I was an election judge. We had a blizzard, and people were coming in, and the power went out in the building. Didn't affect anything, right? We could still see enough, and they could vote. Didn't affect anything. Then when we got done, both judges went together with the box to central count. We stood in line and chatted it up with all the other judges, and got to the window. They'd take our ballots out. They'd put them in the scanner. They'd run them through the optical scanner. They'd print the results. They'd put one on top, wrap it, stick it on the shelf, and another copy was printed to give to the county clerk at the time, which is now our EA, which that's another problem we can talk about. And we were done, right? And we had our results statewide by 9:00. We were home by 8, right?
Wow.
It was so simple to set up, take down, and it was just nothing to it. And I marveled at the system, at how whoever came up with the system was brilliant. You couldn't cheat. I think it was the Australians that actually came up with that system.
Wow.
And I think it was North Carolina that started that in 1859, the system that we were using, and it worked beautifully. And then we had, and it's part of the election code, that we have to canvass the vote, right? In our primary, it's up to the county parties to do it. In the general, then it's up to the county commissioners. But they don't have that ability now. But within 21 days, we had to go in, pull 25% of our precincts at random, and we'd have to sit down and manually count a race. We could pick any race at random on a random 25% of the precincts and verify that the scanner counted the votes correctly. Mm. And it was simple. It didn't take us any time because we're doing it alone. So I might take 3 other people with me. We each grab a precinct. We each count a separate race. Takes us 15 minutes maybe to whip through because you just make your marks, right? And then you add them up. make sure it matched the scanner, and the scanner was always correct. Those scanners are very simple. They look for the presence of or the absence of light. It's not going to make a mistake. Now, it might kick a ballot out where somebody voted twice in a race for two people, but those were adjudicated, or that race wouldn't count for that ballot, right? But we had a true ballot, and you could, there are people that won't follow directions and they might check the box or something. So those we'd have to adjudicate. But it's both Democrat and Republican judges making those decisions. Two people, one from each party. Simple, no problems, and it worked well, and it cost nothing. They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on these machines and service agreements, and you're paying all that with your tax dollars. And then I believe they're selecting our candidates and instead of us as individual voters, and that's wrong.
You talked about bringing
And even if they're not, the system is bad, it's wrong, and it can't be verified. So I advocate for a system where nobody can complain, where people can verify their vote, and where candidates can prove they won. And to me, it's pretty simple. But we can do it, and you can do it at your local county level by putting pressure on our county commissioners. And if enough people will stand up and tell them what they want, they won't have any choice but to do it. And if they don't, find people in your community to run against these people and get them out of office. They are not representing you.
For those who are watching from Amarillo, you can go to amarillofirst.com. Everyone can go to the WeThePeopleTownSquare.com. Download that app. For over 15 years now, I've been hearing people say, we need a conservative alternative. Those are the words of Dan right there, conservative alternative. We need an alternative Facebook. You saw how easy it is to be censored, to be shut down, for Facebook to do their tests, even Defer of Facebook has publicly stated that he helped the Biden campaign. And you need true news. You need accurate news. If there's anything good about people having lost total faith in the government and the media, it's when they find the real thing, they can get behind that. Dan, you do a great job of keeping your people informed with the We the People Town Square app. You have a bunch of great interviews on YouTube as well. We the People Town Square. You present, what these officials vote, how they vote. And you don't necessarily tell people how to vote. You tell them to vote and to show up. And again, by doing that, we can bring the vote back to the precinct level, showing up. Folks, you're about to watch this debate tonight. And again, you'll see both sides, quote unquote, both sides. Fox News is in bed with the left, but hey, for argument, entertainment's sake, they'll pretend to be for the right. Some great people on that network are not leftists, but the owners most definitely are. And aside from all the noise, you need to understand what your platform stands for. A lot of young people that I talk to, Dan, they don't realize that the Party of Native American Genocide, the KKK, Jim Crow laws with Biden himself, and so much more, Black genocide. So many of those things are from the left. And because they have had the dominant voice in the media, of course, in the education system, telling a part of the truth, but blaming the conservatives when they're the ones who propagated slavery and so many other atrocities. They just want a civil war is what they want. But people need to know their platforms. You can download your platform online. And if you're downloading platforms from the Republican Party or the Democrat Party, while you're at it, why don't you download a copy of the Communist Manifesto? And you will see line by line the things that have been enacted by the left. And I'm just speaking on my own here. But no matter how you vote, please vote informed and vote early and show up. More about showing up. It's not just the vote. Conservatives tend to check out after the major election time. They underestimate the importance of the primaries. and they underestimate the importance of staying engaged all year long. As we're about to go into watching the debate pretty soon, how would you encourage people on perhaps retraining their perspective of what it means to show up and to stay engaged?
Yeah. I think people need to start listening a little more to what these people say, and they don't. They don't listen to the candidates. They listen to what the media tells them the candidates say or what they stand for. You need to listen to the candidates themselves and look at their policies and not be manipulated by emotion. You know, they're trying to make Kamala Harris look out like she's the greatest thing since sliced bread. She's the queen of America. She's the hardest working woman ever. Um, but a couple of months ago, she was the worst vice president in history and is totally clueless, right? But they have created the narrative and people believe it because that's all they hear, right? And they don't listen to, there is no other side out there that really can offset what most people see on social media and in what they call the mainstream. I call it
Right.
the government controlled media.
Right. State
It's
control.
not
Yeah.
mainstream to me because I don't watch any of it.
Right.
I don't think it matters, and I don't want to be manipulated myself because it's easy to because if you see it and you hear it, you tend to believe it, you know, and they know that, and they've been very successful at convincing people of things that did not happen, that did happen, and vice versa. Like no evidence of election fraud when there's nothing but evidence everywhere you look.
Right.
So listen to what they say and make up your own mind. And then don't forget to vote. And the reason I created the We the People Town Square is I was trying to come up with a solution locally for my precinct chairs so we could engage the voters and teach them things that I don't believe they're taught anymore. People don't know how the two-party system works,
Right.
but it's in our election code. We're stuck with it. Whether you like it, agree with it, doesn't matter. If you don't like it, change it, right?
Right.
But so if you've got a system, we need to understand how that system works and use the system to affect positive change. We can get rid of property taxes. We can get rid of electronic voting devices. We can fix our school system, but we have to do it. Donald Trump can't do it by himself. He's one man. Anything could happen to it. They took a shot at him on July 13th. What if they would have not missed?
Right.
My point is, it's up to you, the individual. So if you'll join our platform, I will help you and show you what you can do so we can take